What's the worst neighbor from hell behavior you've witnessed? I live down the street from a heroin dealer. My house was constantly being robbed by his customers. I forgot to lock my car and they stole my GPS. And all my loose change. I didn't lock my shed and they took my lawnmower and gas. I assume they filled their car up. But on the bright side, they returned the can to my shed after using it. If it wasn't locked up, they would steal it. Which is why I don't have a bike anymore. Superstorm Sandy flooded my house with 2 feet of water. My front door wouldn't close because it had swelled from being immersed in water. My neighbors cleaned my house out. They took everything I own. They even went through my attic. They ripped my chairs out of the wall. They stole my oven, my sink, my furnace, my water heater, my refrigerator, my pavers, my car, my boat, my sports autograph collection with signatures from Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, my guns. But as expected, they never even touched my book collection. Back to what they took: my guitars, my video games, my TV, my sleeping bag, my computer, and my coin collection. I guess not from hell. But still. The neighbors ducking kids, man. It starts every spring. They only have one speech volume, which is Scream. It sounds like children are being murdered on a daily basis. They jump all over my porch swing even though I have repeatedly asked the parents to tell them not to. They run up and down the stairs of my porch constantly. I am just waiting for one to get seriously hurt and then it's my fault. I have a narrow driveway and last summer the one got his bike wedged between my house and my car's passenger door. Scratched the it out of it. Basically they just run wild and the parents either don't care or are too drunk to notice at times. I don't know when I turned into a crotchety old man at 30, but damn those kids. Seriously, man. Call the police on them. Especially when the parents are drunk. Quick break. Whether you're looking for entertainment, education or inspiration, Audible has audiobooks for everyone. Link in the description for a 30-day free trial. When I was a baby, the old lady who lived above us put a hose through the window into my cot. Cop here. I went to a disturbance call where 2 neighbors were blowing leaves at each other with leaf blowers. They were actually mad while doing this. Looked out of my window to see my neighbor leaning over my 6 feet high fence and stretching right into my yard to saw some of the main branches off my tree. My tree had never extended over the fence and her limb hacking killed it. A few months later, she cut one of the wires attached to our boundary fence that was holding up a shade cloth in my backyard. I called the cops on her. And a couple of weeks later, all the plants along our boundary fence mysteriously died. And seriously damaged some of my trees. And I still have no idea what her problem is. Found a neighbor of mine putting his trash in my cans. Then when I confronted him, he tried to fight me. Neighbor behind my house would scream at her kids daily to the point our kids would be afraid to play in the backyard. By scream, I mean things such as "you ducking little cunt. Get the duck out here." Verbatim quote, to a kid that looked like he was 8 or 9. My ex even tried to help out one day. One of her kids was up a 3-story tall tree of hers that hung over our fence and wouldn't climb down. I wonder why, and this banshee was screaming all sorts of bile at him to come down. My ex calmly says to the boy, "Please climb down. Sweetie. You might fall," to try and convince him. The woman then turns on her. "What the duck do you think you're doing? Don't you ducking talk to my kids." I made the mistake of calling the cops on her once while she was abusing several people. She then came after me physically. My neighbor cut the cable with her garden shears. I presume an argument over the bill. She wouldn't let the cable company in to repair it, so they had to bypass her house. My house and about 6 others had no TV, phone or internet for 8 days. Not from hell exactly. We used to live in a property with 2 units and we were in the back. Lived there for 4-5 years before the new front unit neighbors, a couple in their 60s 70s, moved in. A few weeks in, She complained about our front yard bit, which was not a shared area and it consisted of a tree and 3-4 small bushes. She wanted us to plant something nicer in our private area, 2mx1m, keeping in mind we were in the back so no one from the street could see it anyways. My mum told her she didn't have the time to do that, so she suggested we hire her gardener to take care of our area, and mum told her we didn't have that kind of money to spend. Next thing you know, she sends us her grandson, he would have been late 20s, to try and convince us to change our plants to what she wanted. She hinted we should do it because he was a professional private detective and he was really good at his job. Crazy plant lady. Full stop. The neighbors upstairs keep overflowing their washing machine, which causes flooding in our house. Now I have anxiety whenever I hear water running. Thanks for that. About 10 years ago, when we first moved into our current house, we gave our neighbors a set of keys to our house just in case of any emergencies, or if there was something we needed while away on vacation. We frequently went out of town, and my dad would go on short weekend business trips on which my mom and I would accompany him. Every time we came back, there were always subtle changes in the house, but too small to really question. Like missing condiments. Not as much toilet paper on the roll. Matt's rugs seemed straighter and cleaner than when we left. etc. About 2 months later, our family came home from our trip a day and a half earlier. We pull up to our house, and first of all, see a bunch of cars in our driveways. Hear the pool and jacuzzi pumps running, and see all the lights on. We go inside only to find our neighbors throwing a dinner party of some sort with a giant mess in the kitchen. Every plate, glass, and piece of silverware we own scattered about the house. Wine and liquor bottles lining the counter. A slew of people in our pool and jacuzzi. And worst of all, one of our boats missing from the dock and lifts, and the other one filled with people leaving our harbor. The look on the face of the neighbor's wife in the jacuzzi was priceless, a combination of utter shock and heightening fear as she saw my 6-foot big brown dad turning red in the face with intensifying anger. Everyone was out in a matter of minutes, and we had the locks changed. But she was kind enough to send over a team of maids to tidy up the place the next morning. It turns out that for 2 months, they had been using our house on the weekends. We even found loads of their laundry in our washer and dryer. 10 years fast forward. My mom is best friends with her, and my dad just hates her so much. TLDR, gave our neighbors a set of keys to our house. They used it to throw dinner parties and use all of our it while we were on vacation. My neighbor is a 40-something redneck crackhead who is an abusive alcoholic. One time he and his spouse were in a heated argument that could be heard throughout the entire neighborhood. My friends and I were at about an 8 and laughing about it until I heard someone else in their house yell, "Get off. He's bashing her head against the wall." Well, despite being stoned as all get out, I jumped off my porch and burst into the house and grabbed the neighbor around his neck in a triangle joke-like manner and choked him out until the police arrived. I think the cops knew I was baked, but they were happy I prevented what might have ended in a bloody mess. They actually laughed at how red my eyes were and told me to take it easy. TLDR, choked out my crackhead redneck neighbor because he was bashing his girlfriend's head against the wall. Edit. Whoa. I just wanna say thanks to everyone who had such cool and funny things to say and for the positivity. Just doing what any of you awesome people would do. This was around 10 years ago. We received a phone call from the police station, saying that our neighbor had filed a complaint. The complaint was that there was a very large pile of dirt and debris on our lawn in the backyard, and it was obstructing our neighbor's view out their kitchen window. Now here's the best part. My family hadn't even moved in yet. We were in the middle of having the house built. It was a new subdivision. Worst part is, we had a week to have it removed. Otherwise we'd be fined. There is actually a law against piles of dirt on your lawn. My friend growing up had neighbors that would shoot a BB gun at their house, drop dead animals on the doorstep, and even tried selling his older sister drugs to piss off their mom. Eventually she got cameras installed around the house to catch them doing stuff to the house, but they would sneak around and cut the wires to the cameras. Finally my friend's mom encased the cameras in plastic, and just in time because not too long after it recorded them sunbathing nude in the cul-de-sac. She is 300 plus pounds and the guy wasn't much bigger. Cops were called and not much else was done after that. I had a Zaftig lady who had a series of Jamaican and Dominican boyfriends living below me. We live in an area with lots of migrant agricultural workers. When the reggae music had the volume turned up, that was a sign she was about to have really loud sex with one of them. Get your freak on, girl. There was this girl that lived next door to me. Let's call her Boo because that's what she liked to be called. I invited her over to my house for drinks once, and she stole my steaks from the freezer. That was when I lived in the ghetto. When I lived in a more affluent area. Crazy still was nearby. Another neighbor stole my cat. The cat went missing for a few days, then showed up back at my doorstep. I took her back in. A few days later, there were lost cat posters on the doors with a picture of my cat. The neighbor came by while I was still figuring out what to tell her about the cat. And when I opened the door, the cat was standing there between my legs. She was really flustered. When I told her that it was my cat and always had been, she said, well, I already paid to have her shots. I can't even fathom what she was thinking. This cat is a beautiful Bengal that likes to hang around on the steps outside of my apartment. Obviously not a stray.